the computer.
That's it. So it'll start recording from now on. No problem.
Okay, perfect. Tusha, is your turn, because I want to put page this one. So this is the first sutra for chapter 2. Can you see the page?
Yes, you can. No problem. Okay.
Okay, Tusha, you can start if you want.
Okay. Right. Chapter 2. We're looking at the Kriya Yoga means the yoga of blank. I say the yoga of action. So yeah.
Just to remember you, we know this one because we've done it before.
Yeah.
This is just something more specific for to understand better this type of the informations. Okay, so we can talk about anytime. It's fine.
Okay. Okay. 2.1 Yoga in the form of action, Kriya Yoga, has 3 parts: training and purifying the senses, tapas, excuse me, self-study in the context of teachings, swadhyaya, and devotion and letting go into the creative source from which we emerge, Ishvara Pranidhana. Okay. So these 3 practices work together. A bit of reflection will show clearly how the 3 principles, tapas, swadhyaya, and Ishvara Pranidhana, will work together. The principles are really familiar to us all, but seeing them clustered together as a single mode of spiritual practice is very useful. The mind can easily remember the 3 principles together as a single practice. It becomes a companion in daily life. You're reminding yourself of Kriya Yoga. When thinking about the life and spiritual, it is easy then to remind yourself of this foundation by internally saying such words as, I need to train my senses, explore within, and let go of these attachments and aversions. Contained in a simple sentence like this is the outline of Kriya Yoga. That simple sentence contains tapas, swadhyaya, and Ishvara Pranidhana. Then the many other practices of the Yoga Sutras, along with other practices you might do, can be done in this straightforward context. Remember that this is the gross level of weakening the colored thought patterns, and that this is preparation for the subtler part, which is done in meditation.
Okay, because we know this subject, I just put the emphasis on this phrase, and it's a very simple explanation about Kriya Yoga and about how can start to practice yoga meditation. What do you think? I need to train myself, my sense, exploring within, and let go of these attachment and aversions. It's a very simple, but it's very deep information for everyone. If you understand this, you can understand all the concept of the Kriya Yoga.
Yeah. It's actually very powerful because it's also very straightforward that you're saying you're working with your senses initially, and then you're starting to divert your focus inwards. So that train my senses, divert inwards to explore within, and then let go of the attachments and aversions. So all the mental desires, wishes, blah, 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 all that stuff starts. So is what you then can work on to gradually, over time.
If you analogize this phrase, I need the training my sense. This is very important. Explore within and let go of these attachments. It's a great start. If you understand this, you know everything.
Yeah.
What do you think?
when I used to go to the gym initially, I used to do practice on the bicycle and the treadmill and all that, and it was physical. Then I was introduced to yoga. My husband used to go, so he says, "Why don't you join?" So, which I did in 1998. The first few times, it was, you know, how you chant to go to join the kriya, and a bit of exercising. Those exercises I thought were not good, and the chanting I just didn't understand. But then the more I got into it, the more I practiced, the more I realized how my body is changing, how my mind is changing, and how my concentration is changing. So you really, as they say, train the senses, explore within, and let go of
Yes,
aversions
exactly.
and attachments.
So is the first lesson in any yoga lesson, any meditation? And if the people, if you send this message when you start any practice, if you understand these, you can you are exactly, you know, resolve 50% of the problems. Otherwise, if you don't start to understand, I need to train in my sense. When the people started to do yoga meditation and they are not ready to training the sense, they explore something inside of you, they don't do yoga. Simple.
It's not just physical.
No.
Yeah, it's exercise, physical exercise. Yeah, but you know, walking in the park is great exercise. It's better than to do practice yoga without this intention or meditation. Yoga meditation is the same. Remember, there is no difference in my point of view. Was your experience is the same? Yeah.
100%, yes. Mine is definitely. Okay.
Remember when we talk about in this meeting, we talk about for people don't understand this message. Try to use this process inside your mind. Try to talk and talk with the people who don't understand this language. It's much better for us, you know, because otherwise we read and said, okay, it's fine, because it's true what they said. You know, we needed to talk about everyone. Well, I know we know each other, but imagine if there are people for the first time and they read this, they said, okay, I agree, but no make sense, you know.
Yeah, when I read this all this last night, and that was the first sentence that really struck me straight away. And you know, the way I work is I have to write it down for it to sink into my head. But this was very powerful, and I thought this are few words to remember and apply them whenever required, whether during meditation or just yoga. And because I sometimes do yoga on my own, I thought that was very powerful. Yes, I totally agree with that.
What does it mean to train the senses?
For me, the training the senses is that what you look at, the way you look at it, same thing can be looked at in different ways. In a nasty way, oh, there's something wrong with that one. And on the other hand, you can look at in a positive way. For me, the sense, and similarly hearing, Do I want to listen to gossip? No, I don't. Or I don't want to participate. So for me, that is the kind of training the senses is to, they should be in your control and not let them control you. That's how I take it, but I might be wrong. Maybe you can expand a bit on that. And similarly, for when talking, that's another sense we have is, am I saying, be conscious of that. Am I saying the right words? Not talking in a pleasant way, or am I just abusing somebody? And that's where you make those choices. So for me, that's how training my senses is. But please do add to that. And what do you think, Vinu?
Yeah, no, what you say is right, because really, when he says, you see, it says, explore within. After, it says, I need to train my senses to explore within. But how can you explore within if you are not sensitive? How can you have that feeling? Because if you are numb, you can't go within because you can't feel anything. So train my senses is to become more sensitive. The more sensitive you are, the more within you can go in. Because when you want to go to the real subtle part, you have to be extremely sensitive. Otherwise, you will not, experience it. So, like you said, I need to be careful what I say, to choose my words. So sensitivity, in one way, that is sensitivity because that increases your awareness. The more sensitive you are, the more aware you're going to become.
If you want
The more
to
aware
train,
you are, the more deeper you can go in.
if you want to training yourself, your physical body, what do you need to do? Physical exercise. Okay, run, jump.
I think you need,
sorry.
I think you need to apply yourself, concentrate, and pay attention. That's my sense of training. Because certain kriyas, if you do wrongly, it doesn't benefit you. So for you to get the benefit of any sort of physical exercises in yoga, you need to concentrate, pay attention, and apply yourself.
It doesn't matter if you do something wrong, in my opinion, from what I've been reading and this and that. It doesn't really matter right and wrong, because right and wrong will be your coloring. What's right for one person will be wrong for another, and wrong. So that is the mind coming in. Whether it's right or wrong is not the question. The question is you're doing it with awareness. That's more important. Whatever you do it with awareness. Be sensitive. Then you can start creating a distance between the witness and what's happening.
I think the whole emphasis here is that you focus on, firstly, the physical exercises, as we said earlier, to help you to build up your level of focus and concentration. And as a part of the same process, you will also be dealing with your sensory input devices, if I can call that, your sight, your touch, smell, etc. And you become, at each point, you become more aware of what each of those senses is telling you and saying, why is it telling me this? And when you start doing that, it'll automatically get into a situation where you're exploring within. So where is this coming from? Why are my senses telling me this? And why am I responding to my senses in this way? So that's a very, very good way of working forward. And this is what we always do in our yoga kriyas anyway. And the last bit is where we are trying to effectively let go of all the attachments and aversions. But that part of it is something which, in my opinion, from personal experience, is something that you have to really focus on and think about, which is technically away from your senses, but it's still there. So there are effectively three parts. Literally, the three parts are literally what they are, but they are very much interconnected and very much a way of, it indicates to you your progression inwards as you go along.
Okay.
Okay, so Ishvara Pranidhana. The emphasis of Ishvara Pranidhana practice is the release or surrender that is done in a sincere, dedicated or devotional attitude. It is easy to get caught up in debates over the nature of God, Guru, creative source, and teacher. Yoga is a very broad and non-sectarian, leaving it open to each individual how to perceive these realities. The more important part is that of letting go, rather than holding on to the images and desires of the senses, tapas, and the personal characteristics and make up uncovered attraction. Sorry? Without such letting go, the other two of the three practices in this sutra would be of little or no value. You would have knowledge, but little freedom.
Okay, this one, in this part, they said yoga is not religion, in my point of view.
Yeah.
When every time we said yoga, or people say, oh, yoga is religion, come from Hindu practice, Hindu culture, or Sikh, or whatever.
Yes.
But in this case, if you read, especially this one, you know what I mean?
Yoga is very broad and non-sectarian.
They said yoga is exactly. So it's not religion.
No.
It's something you practice to understand the concept of God.
Mm.
But the problem is not where is the God. God is everywhere. So it's another very important part in my point of view.
The issue we get is not so much that people relate this to religion.
Yeah.
But what I also tend to find is that people who don't understand and who've got a very different outlook and level of understanding will always, anything that's different to what they're aware, to their environment and their knowledge and understanding is always suspect, especially if they are, as a lot of people are, they are depending on others to advise them or guide them. The other people who are worse off because listen to somebody who does not understand what's going on and will always put an emphasis that will ensure that their status is maintained within that community.
The more important part is that of letting go.
Yes.
Letting go, then holding. My God is better than yours.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, this is the first form of the attachment from the religions people.
Yeah.
You know, my God is better than yours. This is not yoga. Yoga is the opposite. Meditation is the opposite.
Okay. So the meaning of Ishvara, in the Upanishads, the word Ishvara is used to denote a state of collective consciousness. Thus, God is not a being that sits on a high pedestal beyond the sun, moon, and stars. God is actually the state of ultimate reality. But due to the lack of direct experience, God has been personified and given various names and forms by religions throughout the ages. When one expands one's individual consciousness to the universal consciousness, it is called self-realization. For the individual self has realized the unity of diversity, the very underlying principle or universal self beneath all forms and names. The great sages of the Upanishads avoid the confusions related to conceptions of God and encourage students to be honest and sincere in their quests for, for self-realization. Upanishadic philosophy provides various methods for unfolding higher levels of truth and helps students to be able to unravel the mysteries of the individual and the universe. This is from Swami Rama in section What is from
So this is
enlightenment without God.
spirituality. This is what I call spirituality. I think that's where spirituality is different from religion.
Totally. Absolutely right.
That's the common, I don't know what to call it, concept, a point, the truth behind all religions. So the religions, the present religion, it's oneness, universal consciousness, and people miss that. Sometimes, or most of the time, religions put barriers, put all sorts of control on it.
Religion doesn't make you spiritual. Spiritual makes you religious.
Yes, I agree with that also. Because you see the real truth in that religion, but then you don't do the, I call the peripheral things, you stay within the truth. And each religion has that one truth in them. I agree with you.
Carry on?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, modern versions of Kriya Yoga. Some modern teachers and institutions consider the entire Yoga Sutras to be Kriya Yoga, although Patanjali only relates the term Kriya Yoga to those three foundation practices. Often, breathing practices with attention along the spine, Shushmana, are included, along with other physical practices. It is useful for the student of yoga to be aware of these different approaches so as not to get confused by the various public offerings. These adjunct practices themselves are very useful, whether or not you consider them to be a part of yoga or separate practices coming from pranayama, breath practice. Hatha yoga, Kundalini yoga, or Tantra yoga, for example. In addition, the word Kriya literally means actions, and one might ask a teacher or ashram, what is your Kriya? Meaning to inquire, what kind of practices do you do and teach here? Thus, many practices might be included in the phrase Kriya Yoga. To the Himalayan masters, Kriya Yoga is part of the whole of yoga. Yep. Makes sense?
Yeah. Okay, so the next one is the number 36 question.
Yep. So, practicing Kriya Yoga brings what to...
Sorry.
That's fine, that's fine. So, practicing Kriya Yoga brings what to results? So, yeah. Okay. That yoga of action is practiced to bring about samadhi and to minimize the colored thought patterns or cliches. Reasons for Kriya Yoga. This sutra provides the context and the reason for doing the Kriya Yoga, tapas, svadhyaya, and ishvapranidhana. One, the Kriya Yoga purifies the mind, allowing the gross level of colorings to be weakened.
I'm in this meeting now. I'm in this meeting that I'm going to make the breakfast.
It's okay.
Yeah. The Kriya Yoga is an early stage of the journey which leads directly towards samadhi. Okay. Seeing the systematic...
Sorry, we put mute on...
Okay, yeah, that's fine. She's back. Okay, seeing the systematic process. It is most useful to see the systematic nature of these practices practices whereby you first do the gross level of stabilizing the mind, such as through the methods in chapter 1. Then in the gross colorings, kleshas are attenuated. Then the gross colorings, kleshas are attenuated through the Kriya Yoga, which is the subject of the sutras discussed in this section. Tanu Karana means attenuating the kleshas or colorings, afflictions or impurities. Then building upon that foundation, the subtler attenuation is done and the breaking of the alliance with karma. There is a very important principle in this sutra. That is, the means of reducing the kleshas is suggested. We might encounter many explanations, definitions, discussions, or debates about the meaning of the word klesha, but it is clear from the next sutra that they have something to do with mental habits like attractions and aversions with which we are all familiar. It can be argued that the meaning of klesha is extremely subtle. However, it also has very special application to even the beginning level of meditator. Again, every one of us knows the problems caused by our attractions and aversions. Here, this sutra is telling us that the means of weakening, though not yet eliminating, those negative habits of mind is the threefold method in the last sutra. While students of meditation might struggle with all of the seemingly complex principles, here is a simple suggestion that has only 3 parts. That is very, very useful in that these 3 principles of tapas, swadhyaya, and ishvara pranidhana are relatively easy to understand at some level and are highly effective in weakening the mental clutter. Okay. I tend to agree with this. This straightforward practice is the best way of doing things. Okay.
We can carry on the next one, the number 37.
Yep. Okay, so what are the 5 kleshas? There are 5 kinds of coloring: forgetting or ignorance about the true nature of things, avidya; I-ness, individuality or egoism, asmita; attachment or addiction to mental impressions or objects, raga; aversion to thought patterns or objects, dvesha; and love of these as being life itself, as well as fear of their loss as being death. Okay. The most important practice in yoga, so cultivating self-awareness of the 5 kleshas is one of the most important foundation practices in the entire science of yoga. Note that in chapter 1 of the Yoga Sutra, the first 4 sutras describe or define yoga, and that very next sutra, 1.5, introduces the concept of many levels of thought patterns being either klishta, colored, or aklishta, uncolored. Now, in this current sutra and Kriya Yoga in general, the concept is expanded, describing the nature of the 5 individual kleshas. In Kriya Yoga, the gross level of coloring is dealt with, while the next few sutras begin the process of dealing with the subtler colorings. It works in stages, first reducing the gross and then the subtle. To be aware of the practice of self-awareness or witnessing of the kleshas of our own mind is a very useful thing to do. Okay, so the 5 kleshas. Each of the 5 kleshas are described separately in the forthcoming sutras. Avidya, which is spiritual forgetting, ignorance, and nescience. Asmita, associated with I-ness. Raga, attraction or drawing to, addiction. Dvesha, aversion or pushing away, hatred. Abhinivesa, resistance to loss, fear of death, of identity, desire for continuity, and clinging to the life of.
This one can be, part of the sense.
Yep.
When you talk about the sense, how can training the sense can be one example of the sense. This one, the 5 kleshas. Make sense?
I need to think about it. Yes, yes, in one way. Yeah.
No, it's just try to connect what you said before, and
Yes.
how can training the sense.
Yes, avidya. Yes, I agree. In one way, yes, avidya is not ignorance from the knowledge point of view, but is lack of awareness. Because once you become aware, it's because we have lack of awareness that the others rise up. But once you increase your awareness, the others will fall off by itself.
If you talk about the sense, the number, this one, anyway, so I don't know the name.
Yeah.
The resistance to loss. This one is one very difficult for everyone.
Yes.
Fear of death, of identity, desire and continue. This is a very,
yes,
it's
and
difficult.
that is because of avidya.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of avidya, because of lack of awareness. Once you are aware what you are, then all the other drops off. Everything drops off.
Right. Carry on? Yes? Okay. 4 stages of the kleshas. The 5 colorings, kleshta, of individual deep thought patterns are in one of 4 states. These are described in the next sutra as part of introducing specifics about the nature of the 5 kleshas themselves. Allow streams of individual thoughts to flow. One of the best ways to get a good understanding of witnessing the kleshas is to sit quietly and intentionally allow streams of individual thoughts to arise. This doesn't mean thinking or worrying. It literally is an experiment in which you intentionally let an image come. It is easiest to do with what seems to be insignificant impressions. For example, imagine a fruit and notice what comes to mind. An apple may come to mind, and you may simply note attraction, if you like it or are drawn to it. It may not be a strong coloring, but maybe you notice that there is some coloring. You may think of a pear and note that there is an ever so slight aversion because you do not like pears.
This is a good example when you start to meditate.
Yes.
The first moment when you meditate is not stop in any thoughts, but leave the thoughts, pass, and it's a good example, this one. Remember when you started to meditate, this is what, sorry.
No, yeah.
No, I said that when you started to meditate, this is for everyone. It's not for beginners or advanced people. This is the first problem,
Yes.
because you started to meditate, close the eyes, open your eyes, whatever, and immediately your mind started to produce the thoughts. And if you started to take these thoughts, you don't go over. You rest. You don't move yourself. Forwards, but you need to just to leave and try to the colors, the thoughts. Anything. It's just.
So experiment with colorings. Allow lots of such images to come. One of the things I have done often with people is to grab about 10 to 15 small stones in my hand and ask a person to pick one they like. Then I ask them to pick one they are less drawn to. Few people will say dislike one of the stones. It is a very simple experiment that demonstrates the way in which attractions and aversions are born. It is easier at first to experiment with witnessing thoughts for which there is only slight coloring, only a small amount of attraction or aversion. You can easily run such experiments with many objects arising into the field of mind from the unconscious. You can also easily do this by observing the world around you. Notice the countless ways in which your attraction is drawn to this or that object or person, but gently or strongly turns away from other objects or people. Though it is a bit harder to do, notice the countless objects you pass by every day. There is no response whatsoever. These are examples of neutral impressions in the mind field. Gradually witnessing stronger colorings. By observing in this way, it is easier to gradually witness stronger attractions and aversions in a similar way. When we can begin the process of witnessing the type of coloring, then we can start the process of attenuating the coloring, which is discussed in the next section.
What does the word attenuating mean?
It's reducing down, tuning down, basically, your response to it, as a simple way of putting it.
But why do you have these responses in the first place?
So I said again, why do you have?
You know what we just read? It says, pick a stone, and then you pick the stone that you like. But why do you pick that particular stone? Why do you don't pick another stone?
Well, I think it depends on different people, doesn't it? Because, you know, you may look at a tree in one way. I may look at the tree in a different way. You may look at, I don't know, a car in a different way to somebody else and so on.
Oh, we
It's
know
just that over time, you've got, you know, you built up certain attractions or aversions to objects. What this is trying to say, from what I understand, is look at whatever you're looking at. Look at your response internally in terms of attractions or aversions, and then whatever it is, try and reduce that response, either as a
what is the purpose of this exercise? You know, the purpose of this exercise. It's an exercise. It's just there to bring a realization that it's your personality that's getting involved.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there are lots of things getting involved on there, because technically about it, it's not just personality, but because you've got your whole of your mind, your what I call the automated responses to everything around you. Every time your senses pick up any information, your mind automatically chucks out huge pile of associated information, images, sounds, feelings, etc. So what I think this is trying to say is we're trying to become very aware of all those elements and say, okay, why am I doing this? Why this? Why do I feel this? Why do I hear this in my mind? Or why do I feel this in my body or whatever? And you're trying to gradually tune it down to a neutral response, I suppose, I assume. Yeah.
Is the next one number 38, no?
Yes. Yeah, so 2.4, that's it, yeah.
Do you want to read it, or do you pass it to...
Okay, so which of the 5 cliches is the root of the others? Sorry, yes.
It's okay.
Okay, so now this is quite a long one, I think, if I remember correctly. The root of forgetting or ignorance of the nature of things, avidya, is the breeding ground for the other of the 5 colorings, cliches, and each of these is in one of 4 states: dormant or inactive, attenuated or weakened, interrupted or separated from temporarily, or active and producing thoughts or actions to varying degrees. So, systematically reduce the colorings. These colorings are either active, cut off, attenuated, or dormant, and witness these stages so that we can systematically reduce the colorings. Then the thought patterns are no longer obstacles to deep meditation, and that is the goal. So that diagram that you can see there, you've got shading from deep shading from the extreme left to no shading around the object towards the 5th image towards the right. So whatever we've got, so example is money, you love lots of money, you become neutral to money, you hate spiders, you become neutral to hating spiders, and so on and so forth. 4 stages of coloring. The starting point is to observe what is the current state of the coloring of the individual thought patterns. This self-awareness practice becomes a gentle companion in daily life and during meditation. So the first one is active or aroused, udram. Is the thought pattern active on the surface of the mind or playing itself out through physical actions, through the instruments of action called karma indriyas, which include motion, grasping, and speaking. These thought patterns and actions may be mild, extreme, or somewhere in between. However, in any case, they are active. Okay, the second one is distanced, separated, or cut off. Vichina. Is the thought pattern less active right now due to there being some distance or separation? We experience this often when the object of our desire is not physically in our presence. The attraction or aversion, for example, is still there, but not in as an active form as if the object were right in front of us. It is as if we forgot about the object for now. It is actually still colored, but just not active. But also not really attenuated. So attenuated or weakened, tanu. Attenuated or weakened, tanu. Has the thought pattern not just been interrupted, but actually been weakened or attenuated? Sometimes we can think that a deep habit pattern has been attenuated, but it really has not been weakened. When we are not in the presence of the object of attraction or aversion, that separation can appear to be attenuation, when it actually is just not seen in the moment. Mm-hmm. This is one of the big traps of changing the habits or conditionings of the mind. First, it is true that we need to get some separation from the active stage to the distant stage, but then it is essential to start to attenuate the power of the coloring of the thought pattern. Okay, so dormant, latent seed, prashupta. Is the thought pattern in the dormant or latent form as if it were a seed that is not growing at the moment, but which could grow in the right circumstances? The thought pattern might be temporarily in a dormant state, such as when asleep or when the mind is distracted elsewhere. However, when some other thought process comes, or some visual or auditory image comes in through the eyes and ears, the thought pattern is awakened again with all of its colorings. Eventually, the seed of the colored thought can be burnt in the fire of meditation, and a burnt seed can no longer grow. So where does all of this go? Sorry, excuse me. Through the process of yoga meditation, the thought patterns are gradually weakened, then can mostly remain in a dormant state. Then in deep meditation, the seed of the dormant can eventually be burnt, and a burnt seed can no longer grow. Then one is free from that previously colored thought pattern. Example. An example will help to understand the way these 4 stages work together. Sorry.
You need a cup of tea, Ashna, please.
Yeah, I'm just getting one. Yeah, I'm just going to try tea. 1 second.
2 sugars, please, Ashna.
Take a break. Take a break.
I want milk, Sorry, so where does this all go?
Example.
Oh, sorry, examples. Yes, thank you. An example will help to understand the way these 4 stages work together. We will use the physical example of 4 people in relation to smoking cigarettes. Because the example can be so clear, the principles apply not only to objects such as cigarettes, but also to people, opinions, concepts, beliefs, thoughts, or emotions. The principle also applies not only to gross level thoughts, but the subtlest of mental impressions. So person A, has never smoked and has never felt any desire to smoke. When a person sees a cigarette, he recognizes what it is. There is a memory impression in the chitta, but it is completely neutral. It just is a matter of recognition. It is not colored. It is a klishta. The thought of cigarettes might be colored by aversion if he is offended by smoking, but that is a different example. Okay. So person B has smoked for many years, but then quit several years ago. Occasionally, she says, I'd kill for a cigarette, but does not smoke due to health reasons. Her deep impression of cigarettes remains colored and is actively playing out in both the unconscious and conscious awakening states. At times, the impression of cigarettes might not be active, such as when she is asleep or doing some other distracting activity. However, at the latent level, the impression is still very colored in a potential form. Person C has smoked for many years, but then quit several years ago. He always says, oh no, I don't want a cigarette. I never even think about it. At the same time, his gestures and body language reveal something different. He may have very colored mental impressions of attachment, but they're not allowed to surface into consciousness. There is separation from the thought pattern, but the coloring has not truly been attenuated, even though it goes into latent form during sleep or when the mind is distracted. This kind of blocking the coloring is not what is intended in yoga science. Okay, so person D smoked for many years, but then quit several years ago. After some time of struggling with the separation or cutting off phase, vichina, she then sat with this desire during meditation, allowing the awareness of the attachment to arise, gently refrained from engaging the impressions, and watched the colorings gradually fade. During that time, the thought patterns were sometimes active, sometimes separated, and sometimes temporarily dormant. However, it is now as if she were a non-smoker. The desire has returned to seed form or is completely gone, not only when asleep or when the mind is distracted, but also when in the presence of cigarettes in the external world. Okay, so notice the stage of the individual thoughts. We want to observe our thinking process often in a gentle, non-judging way, noticing the stage of the coloring of thought patterns. It can be fun, not just hard work. The mind is quite amusing, the way that it so easily and quickly goes here and there, both internally and through the senses, seeking out and reacting to objects of desire. There are many thoughts traveling in the train of mind, and many are colored. This is how the mind works. It is not good or bad. By noticing the colored thought patterns, understanding their nature by labeling them, we can increasingly become a witness to the whole process, and in turn, become free from the coloring. Then the spiritual insights can more easily come to the forefront of awareness in life and meditation. So train the mind about coloring. An extremely important part of attenuating or reducing the coloring of the colored thought pattern is to train the mind that is coloring, so that this coloring is going to bring nothing but further trouble. It means training the mind that this is not useful. This simple training is the beginning of attenuating the coloring. The process starts with observing, but then moves on to attenuating. It is similar to training a small child. It all begins by labeling and saying what is useful and not useful. Note that this is not a moral judgment as to what is good or bad. It is more like saying whether it is more useful to go left or right when taking a journey. Often we are stuck in a cycle. Often in life, we first find that the colored thought patterns move between active and separated stages, and then back to active. They go in a cycle between these two. Either they're actively causing challenges, or we're able to get some distance from them, like taking a vacation. So breaking the cycle. However, it is possible that we may never really attenuate them when engaged in such a cycle, let alone get coloring down into seed form when we are in the cycle. It is important to be aware of this possibility so that we can intentionally pursue the process of weakening the strength of the colorings. Meditation attenuates coloring. This is where meditation can be of tremendous value in getting free from these deep impressions. We sit quietly, focusing the mind, yet intentionally allows the cycling process to play out right in front of our awareness. Gradually, it weakens so that we can experience a deeper silence where we can come in greater touch with the spiritual aspects of meditation.
Okay, in my point of view, this sutra is very deep, and is more. The process is more personal. Any individual has a different system to move yourself in increase your awareness. When you meditate, it's a very singular process. This is a very general condition. They give you many different informations how can move yourself. But in my point of view, there is something more specific, individual for any person.
Yeah.
It's a general condition, but it's not working for everyone. This is my point of view. For everyone, the process is completely different. It's more complicated in my point of view.
I think these exercises are just there for just to give us some understanding how the conscious, subconscious, and the unconscious works. Because they're giving all these examples, and I think it's related to those three and how they work. And it's just there for us to see how these three, the subconscious, the subconscious, and the unconscious works. It's just to give us an understanding, I think.
Yeah.
And once you understand, then you know how to move yourself.
Also, remember we recorded this lesson, this meeting, and we have just 4 minutes to finish for everyone. So I just suggest you to use a short time to say something.
I think this is actually a very good set of initial introduction to starting to observe everything that you do as a part of your meditative process in daily life and in your yoga exercises. But more importantly, I feel it actually directs you to what to look at, what to observe, what to think about, and what to consider overall, which is really great. It doesn't tell you where to go from this point on, but that doesn't matter. Hopefully, we can work that out as we go along for ourselves. I agree. It's a good guideline from that point of view.
It's very important to understand and to read these sutras, and then you can start your individual path. This is the base for practice yoga meditation. We know, no? We see now. We said yoga is not religion. Meditation is something. The attachment, whatever. So it's great information, and then you need to practice. The experience is very important. Practice. Read, give this information. They are very important. They are very good. And then you need to practice your discipline.
Yes, I must admit that I found these sutras very, very helpful because I think they have a lot of practicality in it, how to apply it. And I think that's, I found this useful from that point of, from the practicality point of view. And yes, you're quite right. It's an individual way of working through the process.
Find your direction, and try to use there is no another. You can read all the Yoga Sutra Patanjali, but if you don't practice, you don't understand.
No. I think it also highlights the fact that there's so many elements to this colorings that you need to work through.
Yeah.
Especially as we read through the others further down, 2.5, 2.1, highlight a lot of the elements that you need to consider and be aware of. Yeah.
Okay, so we can finish now.
Yeah, finish. Sorry, I've got a call to answer, so if you don't mind, we'll finish now.
Good. Okay, I hope will be good for Sam this lesson. And please, Sam, if you see the video, tell us what it was good or not.
Absolutely, yes, Sam. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Stop to share, and thank you very much.
Yes,
I'll see you on Sunday.